recording, and I'll let people in. Cool. Admit. Hi everyone, if you can see us and hear us, just 1 second. We're just letting everybody in. Bear with us and we will start this conversation. Cool. Nice, right. Okay. I will start with the introduction because that's the most boring part of every single Zoom, and then I'll keep putting people in. Please mirror your screen. I don't know what that means. Do you know?
I've got no idea.
I'm sorry.
I mean, you can all put it on speaker view so that then you'll only see.
Yes, exactly. That's the best thing to do. Okay, everybody, here we go. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Isabel. I'm the founder of I Like Networking, which is a mentoring and networking platform for women and non-binary people in the creative industries. We have a series of events such as this one. Some are paid, some are free. We have bursaries for everything. We have our main program, which is a free mentoring scheme, and applications open on the 22nd of March. We have a podcast with incredible professionals. We're working on a few extra digital resources. And every week I see what's happening. No. What does this say? 1 second. I'll get to that. Every week we post opportunities, funding, grants, roundup, all of that stuff for everyone on our Instagram. We always have giveaways and things like that, so feel free to check it out. I am joined here today with Katie from the Industry Club. So Katie, do you want to quickly introduce yourselves? And while you do that, can everyone just put your name, your LinkedIn, and where you're typing from, just so we can get this started. I'll also add some of our links in it.
Yeah, hey everyone, I'm Katie. Like Isabel said, I'm from the Industry Club. The Industry Club is a recruitment and training provider, mainly for the creative industry, focusing on marketing. So my role is to recruit for roles across social and content, and also for our apprenticeship scheme, Marketing Debuts. I know some of you probably already know what Marketing Debuts is because some of you are currently on the scheme, but Marketing Debuts was basically born out of the recruitment and the training experience we have at the Industry Club to offer opportunities to those who are trying to break into the industry, and remove some of the barriers that are kind of currently in place to stop you getting into the industry. So we take away the need for you to have a degree or to have relevant work experience, and instead we look at the motivations and kind of your passion for the industry instead. So our applications have actually just reopened, so if anybody is interested in finding out a little bit more about that or applying, you can head over to your website, and I'll pop the link in the chat if Isabel hasn't already, and you'll get sent some more information about that afterwards. But basically it's a 12-month program. You'll spend a year working in a marketing agency, and you will end the program with a level 4 qualification, as well as obviously a year's work experience, and a salary of at least the London living wage. So it's a really good opportunity to help you break into the industry. So some of you, if you didn't join us on the first session, Isabel and I ran a session, God, I can't even remember what it was. It seems like forever ago, like October, November time last year, to kind of look at the importance, I guess, of having a mentor in your career, but also actually how you then go about and find one. Everybody always talks about how kind of beneficial it can be for your career, but nobody ever really seems to touch upon actually how you find that person, and who that person should be. So, I mean, if you missed the first session, the webinar is up on the I Like Networking YouTube. Isabel's just put the link in the chat. But basically, we covered in that why you should have a mentor, the support that they can offer you, the advice that they can offer you, and the career insight as well, to understand another person's career journey and pathway. We looked at how you should find a mentor and how you can really use LinkedIn and resources like I Like Networking to help find that person. And then actually how you then go about and try and contact that person. Everybody seems to have a really big fear of actually messaging people that they don't know on LinkedIn, and we kind of spoke about how that's not a scary thing to do. People like to help when they can, and people also like to talk about themselves. So if you're looking for a mentor and you're at that stage, definitely don't be afraid to do that and have a watch of the webinar. And then we also touched upon kind of establishing limits, and how you should kind of manage that relationship with a mentor. But we didn't go into a huge amount of detail, and I guess that's the natural next step of, you found a mentor, now what do you do with that relationship and how do you get the most out of it? And so that's what we're going to chat through and kind of touch upon today in a little bit more detail.
Thanks for that intro, Katie. I popped the link on the chat. We will also send everyone after the session a recording and a toolkit that we prepared, which has information on our mentoring scheme, the industry clubs, marketing debuts, and also some of the tips we're going to go through today, so that you all have sort of like a goal toolkit, goal building toolkit, mentoring toolkit, and all of that you can access easily. So it's going to come directly via Eventbrite, because that's where you're registered. If by any chance you don't receive anything until tomorrow, get in touch with me. We are at contact@iliketnetworking.uk. It's also on our website, and so very easy to find us. Okay. So first things first, let's talk about just a quick note on mentoring itself. A very important distinction to make is that when it comes to mentoring, you as the mentee, which I assume most of you are here as potential mentees, you are actually the most active person in this relationship, okay? The mentor will help you to sort of walk your path through asking questions, prompting you to think about things in a different way, telling you potential feedback, or saying, have you tried this or that? But essentially, you are the one leading the conversation. You are the one leading this relationship. They can't do the work for you. So this is really, really, really important. They'll provide advice and perspective, but they can't live your life for you. Okay. And another very important thing, which we're going to go through today, which I know it's a question that people have, is that you may disagree with your mentor, and that is probably good, and it's probably fine, and it will likely happen. So the first step when it comes to a new mentoring relationship, so in this case, we're considering that you've agreed to have a mentor, is setting up the boundaries. So that would mean, first of all, how many sessions you're planning to have. Is this an ongoing mentoring so that you talk to them every 3 months, or you call them every week? Is it for 3 months? Is it for 6 months? Is it for a year? Is it for 3 sessions only? So you have to decide that with your mentor. Those practical questions are really, really important. To be honest, a lot of the issues that when it comes to mentoring relationships come with basic things like that. And so we always recommend, especially at Online Networking, the first session to be going over this basic questions. So should you email your mentor in between sessions? Should you email them on weekends? Should you call them? Should you send a WhatsApp, a pigeon, whatever it is? Always important to agree on those boundaries. For you as well, if you can take 20,000 emails, you can also say, maybe we share a channel on Slack, or is it possible to have a WhatsApp group? Or can we just talk on the phone? Do you want me to send voice notes or messages? Like, there's all those small ways that we can communicate, especially when it comes to remote mentoring, which I, again, assume most people will be doing. If you're meeting someone in person, that's fine. It depends where you are in the world. So this is very key, and do respect those boundaries, okay? Respect is the key pillar of any mentoring relationship. It's about building trust. You will share a lot of personal things with them. Your mentor might share very personal things with you. And, you will at some point receive some feedback and all those things, and they can be a very personal and private experience. So you have to respect each other, and that starts with respecting each other's boundaries. Okay, so first, that's the actual first thing to do. And then when it comes to that, just a quick note that please, if you do have a mentor, be on time. Okay, you're the one demanding more from your mentor than vice versa. Mentoring is a two-way relationship. The mentor will agree to do this because they want to, and also they will learn from you. It's a really, really incredible program and experience to have in both sides of the spectrum. But if you are the mentee, you have to be on time. If you do need to cancel, you have to offer as much notice as possible. At I Like Networking, we say minimum 48 hours. But yeah, you should really try to avoid canceling wherever possible. And just a few other practical good tips. Always send a thank you note after every meeting, especially once the mentorship comes to a close. Give some feedback. I think that's always really key. And it's very nice as well after 3 months or 6 months that you're mentoring a relationship, and that you can also come back and say, this is what's been happening, give them an update and keep the conversation going. So this is the main thing. Katie, do you want to give any advice on setting up the boundaries on your end? What's up?
I was muted. I couldn't come off.
Sorry.
Yeah, I think also setting the boundaries. I think also focus on think about how you have come to find that mentor, because sometimes your mentor might be somebody that you already know. So, for example, with marketing debuts, you get given a mentor, which for some of the guys will be me, but they've known me through the recruitment process, and I've kind of been there for the recruitment process, but actually also to kind of support them through their roles. And when you talk to somebody all the time, you then kind of become a lot more informal with them, and it's kind of more of a chit chat. And I think I'm looking at the names of people on the screens right now who I know who these people are. Now going into that mentor relationship, those sessions need to be different for you to get the value out of them. And so I think also in terms of setting those boundaries, it's also about, okay, I've known you for however long, and we've been having this relationship around recruitment and support. Now we need to move these sessions into mentorship for you to get the most out of. And I think that's also something else that you just need to think about around setting boundaries, because there will be loads of other things like marketing debuts where you do get given a mentor, or somebody that you might have worked with for 10 years, say, that's got loads of experience in the industry that you work really closely with, might offer to be your mentor. And again, it's then just changing that relationship into something that is going to be an effective mentor.
Thanks, Katie. Yeah, that's a really great advice. On the PDF that we're going to send everyone afterwards, there are lots of questions that you should ask yourself before starting the mentoring relationship. So I'm not going to repeat all of them, but that's the work that you should do before. Okay, so here we're going to talk about the ongoing situation. But if anyone has questions after that, we'll have a moment for Q&A here, but also if you receive the document and have questions, email us. Okay, we'll be happy to support. So our next topic on the mentoring is how the meetings can go, right? So once you started establish the boundaries, you definitely work out how much time your mentor is willing to give you. At Ally Networking, the mentoring sessions usually last between 1 hour and an hour and a half each, but that totally depends on each person's relationship. Katie will jump in to talk about in Industry Club as well, how it works over there. Usually, each session will have you come on with preparing what you want to talk. Especially the first one, you should be coming to the meeting knowing, okay, what is 2 or 3 things that I really want to accomplish either this year or through this program or through this relationship. What am I doing that's helping me get there, and what I'm not doing that's preventing me? What is working and what's not working when it comes to your career? Where do I need the most help, and how can my mentor help me, and how know myself that the mentor is providing value? Those questions are things that you always have to ask yourself. um, of the first session, you will definitely speak a little bit about your career journey, and so make sure that you include those topics into, what's been more challenging and what's been going well, what you do well, what you strive, where you strive, and so on. And then tell them what is it that you want to achieve. As Katie says, no one can help you if they don't know what's your need. So the only person who knows that deep down is you. So it's very important that you come very clear on your objectives. Bonus points if you can divide them into long-term, short-term, and medium-term goals, but we'll come to that later on. On each session, you should come with that idea of what ideally you would like to work on. If it's an ongoing session, if you're having more than one relation, like every 2 months or every 3 weeks or whatever, you'll have to update your mentor on what's happened in the past few weeks, few months, whatever. And again, say, look, this is what I tried doing differently. These were the results. This is what I achieved. This is where, things didn't go to plan. This is where now I think I would have to go, or maybe this is what I'm thinking I should do. And then just always bring ideas of actions and things that you think you should start doing, or things that you want to debate with your mentor. Okay, this is what we talk about when it comes to an active position in the mentoring. You have to think through things yourself to come to your mentor. He or she or they will be a sounding board, and they can give you feedback. Okay, so that's really, really important. When it comes to your experience, it's something that we say to the mentors as well, but it's really good to use sentences that make it very clear that this is your opinion and this is your experience. So, for instance, this is what we call disclosure sentences. You would say, I feel like you told me to do this on my CV and I tried doing that, and for some reason I feel like that didn't work, or I personally experienced this, or what I'm hearing you say is X, Y, and Z. So always disclose the information in a way that people understand that it's coming from you. Okay, that is really important. Language is really important. So I think that really helps the mentor as well to understand, what is it, your perception, or is something else. It's very different if you say, I applied to 20 jobs and I got one interview, as opposed to saying, I feel like I don't know how to apply for the jobs. One thing is like a number and a stat, and the other one is a perception that you have. So those sort of frameworks of speaking to someone are really important. Katie, how do you tell people to prepare for the meetings, and how should they expect them to go?
Yeah, I mean, expanding on kind of what you started off saying there, I think when you're asking yourself those questions, if you watched our first session, then they are questions that you probably should have asked yourself when you were initially looking for that mentor. So hopefully you've already kind of got what those questions are, and you just need to keep revisiting them before each session, and make sure as well that I think throughout your mentor relationship, those questions and needs are still being hit, because otherwise you're preparing and kind of going to these sessions and they're not achieving what you wanted from them. And also I think when you actually prepare for those sessions and ask yourself those questions and think, this is what I want to get out of this session, you can also send that to the mentor in advance, and so that they're aware, especially if you don't have lots of time with them, it can be quite useful for them to kind of be up to speed before your session, to know what it is that they actually want, that you need to cover with them, and how they can help. And it also allows them to actually think what advice they can offer you. But I would also say, when you're talking about your disclosure sentences and things not working and things, I'd also say it's really important to remember that this person isn't always going to be right. They're there as kind of sounding advice. They're not always going to give you the right answer, but hopefully they will help you find that right answer yourself. So don't kind of prepare for these sessions of all the things that you want them to tell you to do. It needs to be, maybe give them ideas of things that you think you could do to achieve it, but remember that they're there to guide you, not tell you what to do. And their advice might not always be the best option for you.
100%. And that's where you come through our bit on feedback and disagreements, right? So if you disagree with something that your mentor said, you are more than you should probably tell them. Again, you should tell them in a very considerate way, because people have different perceptions of things, and sometimes you just have to agree to disagree, and that's fine. That's also a really important thing for you to grow, right? So I guess, again, if you disagree with someone, you can always say, try to always use those self-disclosure phrases, like, I feel like that doesn't work for me for this reason. I hear what you're saying. From what I understand, this is what you're saying, but I personally feel like that doesn't apply to me, whatever it is. And on the flip side, you're going to have to be open to feedback. And I think this is a very difficult thing, okay? Everyone who comes into a mentoring relationship is open to feedback. And especially in the creative industries, feedback sometimes hurt us on a personal level, because we're very passionate about what we do or we want to do. And depending on where you're at in your career, you might feel more deflated or not. Sometimes you're not ready to receive that feedback, and that's okay. You just have to signal that to your mentor and say, I understand, but I don't know if I'm ready to listen to this, and have some time to think over things. But essentially, it's really important to remember, as Katie says, that the mentor doesn't have all the answers. They're there to help you, prompt to think about solutions, but also that whenever they give you feedback, they are not doing this to hurt you. Okay, so they are really trying to support you in the best way that they can. If something that they say is hurtful, please disclose that information. Tell them that you're not agreeing, whatever it is, and maybe agree to have some time to think it over and then come back to that point of contention. Okay, so that happened. I'll give an example that happened with online networking. Okay, that was the first session. The mentee and the mentor worked together. The first session, the mentor told me, I'm not sure she's ready. I told her some feedback, and she shut herself down, right? Like, she was like, shut off. Like, I don't want to talk about this anymore. Maybe we should finish here today. And I told the mentor, you should respect that. Like, ask next time on the next session, ask, are you ready to talk about that thing that we disagreed or not? And then they did, and the relationship went great. Okay, and they are still in touch right now, way after the mentoring program essentially ended. So it does happen, and it's not a failure or anyone's fault, but you just need to give yourself that time. Just try to be as self-aware as possible in that moment. And if it's something that hurts you in any way, please feel disclose that. And I think Katie will also give some tips on that sort of topic.
I think it also comes down to the fact that it is a bit of a learning curve, probably for both you and the mentor, to know what works. So I also think when you're giving feedback and saying, I feel like I've tried this but it didn't work, make sure you're explaining why that thing didn't work. And equally, as the mentor, you want the mentee to understand why you're giving them this feedback and how you think it is actually going to benefit, because the mentor might have potentially misunderstood what your objective was, or even maybe things about kind of like your working style and your working ethic and how you like to fit in with your team at work and things like that. So saying, oh, this didn't work for me, because actually helps your mentor also understand more about your situation, so that then hopefully they can give you more advice or help you find that advice that is going to be more suitable. And I completely agree as well with what you're saying. I think in the creative industry, we're all super passionate about what we do, and so that feedback sometimes does hurt a little bit more. But I think you just have to appreciate that this relationship with your mentor is there to help you. They're not doing anything to make you feel like you're doing a bad job or you're doing things wrong. They're there to help you grow. And remember that most of the time you have gone out of your way to find this mentor as well, and if you're not willing to kind of accept their constructive criticism, then you're wasting their time and you're wasting your own time, basically.
100%, Katie. Yeah. And if, I guess, when it comes to our mentoring program itself, If anyone ever has questions, they can always email the team at Island Networking, and I'm sure Katie and the Industry Club have a support system as well. But yes, always remember that this is something that will help you grow, and grow sometimes it can be a bit, hard, and there are some thorns in the way. But I personally find that it's best to hear feedback and criticism from someone that cares about you, that's vouching for you, than just from a random stranger,
I
because
also
yeah,
I also
go.
think it's feedback that you would probably, I mean, you might not want to hear the feedback, but it's also feedback that you would probably you'd rather hear from somebody like a mentor than actually your line manager pulling you to the side and saying that you're doing something wrong. So it's also a nicer way potentially to hear that, and then you can put that into action in your workplace so that you don't have to have those conversations at work.
Yeah, 100%. So, Katie, do you want to expand a bit on how to set goals and expectations with the mentoring, and then how we should all continue the relationship?
Yeah, so I mean, I think again it really goes back to understanding what you want from that mentorship and making sure that your goals align with that. And I also think you should go back to that regularly as well and make sure that the goals that you're trying to achieve, your mentor is actually going to be able to help you achieve those goals. There's no point thinking about all these goals that you want to achieve in your career and then working with a mentor that has no idea about any of those things. So definitely keep referring back to those questions. And I think, as Isabel mentioned at the end, it's really good to break down those goals as well. So if your mentor relationship, say for example on marketing debuts, the mentor relationship will last the entirety of the program, which is just over 12 months. And we will meet probably every 3 months. And so I think it's really good on that first session to outline what your long-term goal is. What are your goals for the end of that program? What do you want to have achieved by the end of that mentorship? Maybe set something halfway, so do like 6 monthly goals and say, right, my halfway point to know that I'm on track for that end goal is to do X. I want to have led a creative project and I want it to have been solely my responsibility and I want to have successfully delivered that. How am I going to achieve that? And then break it down so that each session you then have smaller goals to go to as well. So taking back, obviously, your end goal, your midway goal, your 3-month goal needs to be to work towards that 6-month goal. So what at 3 months do you need to have achieved to be on track to be able to deliver and successfully run a project on your own by 6 months? And once you've understood those goals, you can then break them down smaller into smaller kind of aims and actions of how you're going to do that. And that's when I think you can really use your mentor's advice as well, because hopefully your mentor will have gone through similar things. Otherwise you might not have potentially picked the best mentor. And they can kind of talk you through what they did to make sure that they got there and issues that they had on their way to help you almost confirm what those smaller aims and goals need to be. And I would say also, once you've set those goals, keep going back, keep remembering what your 12-month goal is. What is it that you want to have achieved by the end of that? And keep making sure that at each session you're still on track for that. And I know I feel like I keep repeating this, but you really do just need to think about what it is constantly that you want out of this relationship and how it's going to get you to that end goal, and keep referring back to it every session. At the end of every session, have the last couple of minutes concluding what you've spoken about, but also actually concluding and making sure that what you've spoken about is still going to help you get to that goal. And I think revisiting that in each section also helps you actually just make sure that you are still on track. And if you catch it in like the second session to think, I've gone completely off track here, we've not discussed what I wanted to talk about, I'm still not sure how I'm going to achieve my 6-month goal, it's better to catch it then than it is at the 9-month section when you're then way too close to the end goal and you're not going to be able to pull it back. So keep revisiting those goals constantly and break them down into smaller things. And you don't just have to do it into 3 months and 6 months and 9 months and 12 months or however you do it. You don't have to only have goals for when you're having those mentoring sessions. Sometimes you can have like a mentoring session on your own outside of those sessions, and just pop half an hour into your diary each month and think, okay, my next session is in 2 months. How am I going to make sure that I'm meeting those goals? And also almost try and mentor yourself so that when you then actually go to your mentoring session, you are on track and you know that you're talking about the right thing and that you're doing the right things to get there.
Thanks, Katie. I think that's all really helpful. And I'll just add that the way you organize that sort of constant personal feedback of, okay, I'll know I have achieved this goal when X, Y, and Z can really depend on you. So you can either have, a good old notebook where you write a little bit after each session. There's like tons of templates online about organizing your goals that ask you questions. You can do like tables, you can have an Excel spreadsheet. There's so many ways. It sometimes sounds like really overwhelming that you think you're gonna have to do all of that, but in reality, it's usually very organic, this sort of thinking, and especially if you're working with your mentor during a period of time, this will also happen in a way that your mentor will probably prompt you to do things in between sessions that will help you think through all of that. So it is less overwhelming than it seems. It's just important that you keep all of that in mind when you're doing all of that. So I don't know, Katie, do you have any final words of wisdom before we open to our Q&A?
Yeah, I think just continuing on from what you were just saying as well, I think it's some of the things that we've probably said does seem really overwhelming and does seem like we're telling you to do so much work alongside the work that you're already doing. But I also think there is bits of crossover. Like there will be some things here that will still be really useful for you in things like development meetings with your line manager. And so don't think of this as loads of extra homework on top of things that you're already doing. These things will help you in other ways as well as the mentor relationship. And yes, it does sound like a lot of work. I think we have definitely made it sound like a lot more to do than there is. I think these are the sorts of things that like you'll just naturally think of. Like you'll think about what it is that you want to achieve. And again, that's a conversation that you've probably all had with line managers in the past. Like, where do you want to be in 12 months? A mentor can just be like that second person to give you another perspective from your line manager. And like I say, it's not loads of homework. You don't have to constantly be writing things down and writing essays about the goals that you want to achieve and what you've done to get there. Some of it can just be in your mind, but I think going to those sessions, it is just helpful to be able to have something written down. And there is something as well about writing things down that just make it seem more real and actually confirming what you're doing. But don't feel like we've just asked you to do loads of work.
Yeah, and there's one thing that I recommend everyone doing. Obviously, we are going to send on both different programs. Everyone sends a monitoring form, but for yourself, it's good to have like a think of any basic stuff that you really like to achieve at the end of this program and just write it down, because it's often we're progressing in our career goals or our career development, and we forget how we felt at the first stop, and then it's easy to take for granted the development that you did yourself. And if you do have a mentor and you've went after it, whichever way you did this, you're already doing a lot for yourself, and it is incredible what you can achieve. And sometimes it's very incremental changes that we don't often notice right away. It can be very, very easy to compare yourselves if you're on page 1 of your career with someone pages 55, and so it's good if you have any sort of way to track that. And again, you will choose the way to do that, but it's important for you to feel like, yeah, okay, this is evolving. Like I am developing, things are moving forward. It makes you feel better and also gives some, I guess, perspective of the whole process. Katie, I don't know if you have anything else to add. Otherwise, I'm happy to open for any questions. So if you have questions, please pop them on the chat. Okay, someone asked, I wanted to ask if mentoring is available, recommended in the early stages of career for university graduates. Katie, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there is any age group or kind of level of experience that should have a mentor more than others. I think it's an equally valuable thing for any point in your career. So don't just think either somebody really senior or somebody really junior. It's beneficial to everyone. And I think it also, I mean, your mentor as well doesn't have to be somebody older or more experienced than you either. It's just somebody who can advise and offer you support. But I think early on in your career, I do think it is a really nice thing to have for so many reasons. Obviously, not only for kind of career development, but also as a bit of a support network, somebody to also stand in your corner and say you're doing the right thing, you're doing well. Because I think that's, especially coming into the creative industry, it is a hard industry to break into. And I think it's probably a lot of imposter syndrome in the industry, where sometimes it's nice to just have a mentor to validate that you're doing it well. And also just somebody there will be things that you probably haven't thought about in terms of goals that you want to achieve, or goals that you think are even achievable. And so having a mentor at that point in your career, I think, is also really useful, just to let you know of the things that you can achieve. And I guess early on as well, you've probably come from, I mean, if you're a graduate, you've had years of structure. So you've been through school where you've had teachers telling you what to do, and you've had probably tutors and things at school, and then you've gone to university and had a similar thing. And then it's almost like, we're just going to throw you in the deep end, go and just kind of survive on your own with no support. You have to get yourself out of bed in the mornings to go to work and things. So actually having a mentor as well is quite a nice person to make that transition a little bit smoother, and have somebody that you do have to almost be accountable to and say, this is what I've done, this is what I'm doing, just so that you don't enter kind of the working world and feel completely on your own, and like you have to almost structure your days again, and you can't just get away of laying in bed anymore and missing lectures. You just have to get on with it.
Yes, absolutely, Katie. And what you said about finding mentors that maybe are not crazy experienced, I 100% agree. It could easily be someone who graduated 2 years before you or 3 years, and have a chat with them and say, look, I'm going to the job market right now. Is it possible that we can have a relationship where I check in every, I don't know, 2 months with you? Would you give me some pointers on this? Are you able to introduce me to some people in the industry I could talk to? Anything, and also ask them what worked for you, what's the best strategy. And it can be really simple, and I agree, there's never a right time for mentoring. Is if you feel like you're ready for it and you want, and you have time to commit to it, really, because it does take some time and effort on your part. So but yeah, I guess you can do it at any stage of your life, and in many different ways as well.
I think going back to the age point as well, and having somebody that's years and years more experienced than you isn't always the right thing. And I don't think we can stress that enough. I think especially when you are early on in your career, the job market changes so much, and the way that agency processes and just how everything works changes so quickly. Actually having a mentor that maybe, I mean, there's no right or wrong, but I think having a mentor that maybe is, say, 20 years older than you, they're going to probably be a lot less relatable for you, because how their career was when they started and when they were in your shoes has probably changed a lot. So for example, if you're an apprentice now, having somebody that's kind of 20 years more experienced than you, probably when they entered the market, apprenticeships weren't even a thing. And so they won't have had the same career journey. And although that sometimes is a really useful thing to just understand different pathways, sometimes actually someone who has only just been through it is more relatable to you, they're more understanding, and they might be able to give you more kind of up-to-date support as well.
Thanks, Katie. Yeah, Katja asked ways we can phrase how to ask someone to mentor you. So Katja, we talk about this extensively on the first session. Take a look at that, and if you still have questions, email me, or we'll try to get to that before the end of this. Someone asks if there's any online platforms that we found to be particularly good for organizing meetings. Well, again, it depends on you. I think if it's remote, then something that has a video interface, it's nice, because your body language can be super important, and also people can share things and introduce you. But 100% it depends on you and your mentor. When it comes to scheduling, it will depend. I particularly like Calendly because you can book things easily in. But I think most often than not, if you're the mentee, the mentor will have a scheduling tool that they prefer, and you're kind of have to go with it. But I don't know if Katie, do you have any tools? How do you usually run yours?
So all of ours is on Zoom or Teams. I would kind of just echo what you've just said. I think if you're doing it virtually, you need to do something with a video, because I do think it is just something that is quite personal, and I think it's not something that you're going to get the same out of if you're just staring at their name on a black screen in front of you. You'll also, that I think we spoke about it quite a lot in the first webinar actually, that a big part of having a successful mentoring relationship is trust, and being able to feel like you can tell them honestly things and they can tell you honest things back. I don't think you really get such a kind of a high level of trust when you've not met that person face to face, or you have no idea what that person looks like and their facial expressions when you're telling them things. And I think especially if you are talking about things that are quite personal, you probably want to see their facial expressions when you're telling them those things. So definitely do it on camera if you can.
Yeah, I agree. And it might make everything easier as well, because tone of voice is so important and you can't always get that across just by your voice. Literally, I think it's important to have this, like the videos. Katja, just so you know, when it comes to asking someone to mentor you, you said it is cringy. I feel like we need to talk about that. We're gonna have a free session on stop underselling yourself, because asking for what you need is not cringy. It's very good, and this is what you should do. But again, on the first session, we talk a lot about this. But essentially, with a mentor, you will usually start a relationship before you go into like, oh, can you be my mentor? So it will usually evolve in an organic way, and you don't always, as we were saying here, have to say it in like a point blank way. He can be something as simple as, are you able to support me in my journey for like 6 months? Are you okay if I call you every month, or if I send you your CV and we touch base every 3 weeks, just so I can, have an accountability? There are so many ways to do that. Really, again, recommend watching the first session, because it's all about that, and there's lots of different strategies that I don't think we can cover now in like 5 minutes. But yes, do try that. And I'd encourage everyone to come to this free session on underselling yourself. I think it's really important for everyone to be able to, defend yourself in this world. It's really hard out there. Not everyone's going to be kind and easy on you. So it's good if you can vouch for yourself, I think. Katie, I don't know if I have anything else to add on that note.
No, I agree. And I think it's a session that I want to come to as well, because I feel like everybody's guilty of it. No one ever wants to kind of big themselves up and say that they're doing a really good job, and no one it's the imposter syndrome, right? We're all not really sure that we should be here and that we're doing the things that we should be. So
amazing. So guys, we're gonna start wrapping things up. If again, we're going to send a PDF with tons of tips, with the whole description of what Industry Club does, how you can get into that. I like networking as well. If anyone has any questions, please email us, either Katie or I, respectively, because we work for different organizations, although we do many things together. When it comes to mentoring, I think a very, very important thing always to remember is to be yourself and be honest. When it comes to applying for a program, to reaching out to someone, or either throughout your session, this is supposed to be helping you, and you're gonna have to open up a bit so that everyone can really do that. So that's my only like last bit of advice. And Katie, I don't know if you have anything else to add, and maybe just for anyone who was late here, just a new sort of a refresh on how they can find the Industry Club, and what are the programs, and when are they going to be open for everyone.
yeah, I mean, if anybody hasn't watched the first session, I would definitely recommend watching that. I think that was such a good, useful session for anybody that is thinking about finding a mentor. And I think my biggest piece of advice for kind of managing these relationships with mentors is just to be prepared and appreciate that it's the mentor's time that they're giving up. So not preparing is really disrespectful of their time. And I think you can always prepare more for them as well. So there's never you're never too over prepared for them. And yeah, marketing debuts. So you can head over to our website at theindustryclub.co.uk. There's a page on there all about the different schemes and the qualifications that you'll get from it. And also, actually, this is really great timing for this webinar, because it's actually National Apprenticeship apprenticeship week this week. So we're also sharing loads and loads of content about our current apprentices' journeys so far into the scheme and what you can actually expect. Our applications are open until the 22nd of February, I think, for an April start. So all the information is on our website, or of course you can email me to find out more.
Yes, and again, everyone, you'll receive the PDF and another time the link for this session and the other session, which will both be on our YouTube channel. We don't have that many videos up there, so it'll be easy to find. So don't worry, you'll receive all the information again. And yes, thanks so much for everyone to come. Everyone who came, sorry. And Katie, thanks again so much for supporting us and being here. It's always a pleasure to partner with the Industry Club.
Likewise.
And please find us online. We're everywhere. And we look forward to hearing from you. And we hope you all have very fruitful, incredible mentoring experiences.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.